Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Maxine. I have Avoidant Personality Disorder and ADHD, and that's what we talk about here. I was originally planning on filming a different video today, a much deeper, darker topic that I think is really, really important to talk about and that I am hesitantly excited to open up the conversation around here soon. But if you guys have been following along in my recent videos, you'll know that the first really big step that I'm taking in trying to get a little bit better and improve my life as somebody who suffers with AVPD is I'm quitting weed. I have had a dependence on weed pretty much since I moved to Colorado probably 4 years ago now. And I've quit several times in those years, so I know exactly what to expect. But today is day one of total sobriety. I ran out last night. This is what has followed me from the time I wake up till the time I go to sleep for years, and I'm putting that down. So I'm not filming the difficult video today or probably in the next few days. I'm gonna give myself a week or so to work through these physical symptoms that really heighten anxiety on its own before I sit down and face these like deep existential topics that I have planned. So for today, we're just going to talk about avoidant personality disorder and trying to hold a dang job, because this is an equally as important topic. I just recently went on the r/AVPD Reddit for the first time, and I can see that I'm definitely not alone in this struggle. I think it's probably it's one of the most pressing issues, because as far as being lonely goes, of course we can survive being lonely for a long time, but the financial ramifications of this kind of avoidance is really serious, and it has been for me. It's really gotten me to a very dependent and whatever the opposite of freedom is. I'm trapped because of my inability to maintain a job. So I'm going to tell you my background and sort of where I'm at now in this, like, I thought I had figured it out, but I didn't. So going back, my first job ever was at 14 years old as a waitress. It was not a job I even applied for. It was, I had like a neighbor, an elderly neighbor who frequented this cafe and came to my parents and basically said, they need waitresses and they will interview Maxine if she's interested. And so it just my parents took me and I got the job on the spot. So it happened very fast. I was excited about it. I was 14 years old. I didn't know to be that like nervous about it. Of course I was nervous. I was very, very nervous, but like I thought it would be good. I wanted to make money. And so I started doing that. But I can very vividly remember my first day on the job shadowing another waitress who was a few years older than me. And it was one of the only times in my life that I can remember feeling like I almost could not speak. I was so scared. I was shaking. And like, I can remember even when they were like, okay, your turn, like you introduce yourself and ask them if they need anything to drink or whatever. I was like opening my mouth and the words were barely squeaking out. I was so nervous about it. But eventually I did learn, and I was able to work that job. I cried at work almost every day, like even from the beginning. But the first owners weren't that bad. And then like a few months into working that job, the owners changed. They were way more strict. And I started crying at work way more. And eventually, after just a few more months, quit that job. And that started this pattern for me through basically all of high school and college, while I was working part-time jobs, of just hopping between jobs, never working a job for more than a year. A year is like the absolute longest that I ever worked at the same place. And it's funny to think I started my first job right around, I think it was like right before I turned 15. And then at 15 years old, I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder and put on propranolol, and soon after started taking antidepressants and trying different ones of those too. So that was really around the time that my anxiety and my mental illness got to a point where it was no longer manageable for me on my own. So I did food service basically through high school and those first couple of years of college. And then I dropped out of college at 21, I think, and fell in love and moved from my hometown in Wisconsin across the country to Idaho to be with this person. And then even then, as an adult, I just kind of, because I didn't finish college, I was just working sort of whatever random entry-level job I could get into. So when I moved to Idaho, I started working at a factory. I worked there maybe for the longest that I worked anywhere, I think. And it was under a year, or right around a year. I worked in a call center at a bank for a short time. I did cake decorating at a grocery store for a short time. But what all of these work experiences had in common. Oh, I also worked in doggy daycares. I've worked at a couple doggy daycares. Those were like some of my favorite jobs. But what all of these things had in common, beyond just being for a limited amount of time, is that by the end of this limited amount of time, I was calling in sick like every week, because I would wake up, I would go to bed with the most overwhelming sense of dread for the next morning. And I know a lot of people experience that, probably, without having a personality disorder at all. People just hate their jobs. But I would lay awake at night with the most overwhelming sense of dread, the like pain in your chest type of dread, knowing that I was going to have to face these people. Usually by this point in the job, I had already developed this sense of like, they don't think I'm a good employee. Every time I would call in sick, then that would make it worse. So then that would compound my anxiety about going back to work. Is like they're mad at me for skipping. They're mad at me. They don't believe me, which I was lying most of the time, so they shouldn't have. And then I would wake up the next morning to my alarm to go to work, and I cannot describe the sensation of like pure panic at the thought of having to go face these people. It felt like I was going to die, or like I would rather die. I always say that, but like it really is that extreme, to where it's like you guys don't understand. It's not just that I don't want to go. It's that I can't go. I cannot face that today. I cannot do it. And so, oh, you guys want to see? This is my other cat. This is Wednesday. So basically all of those jobs, all the way up until I was in my mid-20s, were entry-level jobs that should have been easy for me to keep up with and should have been enjoyable. But because of the human dynamics in the manager to employee dynamics, please don't touch that. Thank you. I couldn't do it, and I would end up either quitting or getting fired. So that happened. My last job, I still don't even really know if I quit or if I was fired. It was kind of like a mutual situation. Was right at the beginning of the pandemic. I called in sick for the last time using the fact that I was not feeling well and it could potentially be this brand new pandemic illness, and that I shouldn't risk it. I called in and they were like, don't come back then unless you can get a negative test. And at that point, the tests, it was so new, there were no tests. So it was like, okay, yeah, I'm not coming back. So that was in early 2020. And that's the last time that I worked a regular job. And honestly, even before that, I had taken like a big break. That was like me returning to work. And then I worked there for a few months and then I left. So I have not worked very much in my late 20s. And Wednesday, please. And so I didn't work. So then I was off at the beginning of the pandemic. I've talked about how that was really like a turning point for me, where I just felt like I could not do it again. I couldn't do it anymore. I could not do it again. I needed to just lay in a quiet room for a few years and just like take a break. And after doing that for a year and just becoming more and more and more depressed and feeling more and more pressure from my partner to like do something with my life, which is fair. I was like, okay, well, I can't just go back to doing what I was doing. Like, I already know I can't do that. And I'm like desperate to not have to do that. So I know I'll go back to school and I'll finish the degree that I started at 18. And then I'll be able to work for myself. I'll become a freelance designer and I can work for myself and nobody can tell me, you know, that I'm doing it wrong or that I have to work on a day that I don't feel like I can or whatever. I can be in control of my own career then. But really the biggest thing was because I have a really, really, really impossible time future planning, I wasn't even so much thinking of like, oh, this career that I can have at the end. I was just thinking, if I go back to school, that gives me 2 more years of not having to get a job. Like that just, I can put it off for 2 more years. I can go to school and just, I'll deal with it later. And wouldn't you know it, the 2 years passed and here I am. I've gotten my degree and it's time for me to become this freelance, self-employed girl boss, designer woman. And I had a little bit of luck, honestly. My professors at the school that I went to are amazing. And my professor did help me to get a little gig, my first freelance gig here in town a couple months ago. And that's that was really great of him and really awesome. It's been a good opportunity for me. But with that said, that is also now coming to an end. And it's really on me at this point to make something of myself, which is just as difficult in its own way as just going to the grocery store and decorating cakes, or going to the doggy daycare and checking in dogs and just dealing with a little bit of like bureaucracy, or like dealing with like a power tripping manager, or like whatever it is, dealing with having to answer the phone. So yeah, I thought I had it all figured out. I was going to work for myself, but now it's up to me to get out there. I have to be not only a designer, but I have to be a businesswoman. I have to be a salesperson. I have to be able to, I have to be able to market myself. And that's really difficult, really scary, and feels just as impossible right now. So that's really it. It's just that when you are so preoccupied, when you are clinically anxious about rejection, criticism is the big one, I guess, right? When it comes to like the working environment, is like, even if somebody corrected me in the nicest possible way that they could, with no maliciousness whatsoever, it feels like a stab in the chest to me, because I should have known, I should have been able to get it right the first time. It's my own failure that I even need to be corrected, and that reflects on my intelligence, my worthiness, my value to society. That's really how I feel, and that's internalized, that even in an entry-level job that I know cognitively that I can do, even though I genuinely believe that I'm a smart person, that I'm a capable person that like learns quickly and can do these basic tasks, it's like, it's the self-fulfilling prophecy again of feeling too anxious about failing at those things to even be able to attempt them in the first place. And then of course you're going to fail, or like it's an automatic failure if you don't try. But to me, I would rather not try at all than try and fail. And that is like a mindset that is not only damaging, but it's like, it's impossible. It makes it impossible to do anything. So I'm at this point where I have no choice but to grit my teeth and put myself out there and know that I am going to be rejected again and again and again. That even when I get jobs, there are going to be clients that don't like the first thing that I do. And I have to be able to accept that that is not a reflection on me as a person, and that these situations are complex, and that everything does not have to be personal. I think that's really like what I need to work on, is that everything is not personal, especially when you go to a job, especially when you're working a job, when there's money involved. It's not personal, it's just business. It doesn't have to be so personal. But it feels that way, and it's crippling and it's difficult. So yeah, so that's just what I want to get off my chest today. That it's hard. It's really, really hard. And I know that you guys struggle with this too. This is something that I think is like a really good discussion point for the comments though. If anybody has found, obviously, like I said, the main thing is that we have to change our mindset about these things. There's really no getting around that. But if anybody has found any tips or tricks, any really good like career or jobs that help to keep you from experiencing so much of this feeling, or any tips to help combat that like sense of dread or panic, let me know. Let us know. Let's talk about it, and let's support each other in just pushing through and not giving up, because that's what I always feel like doing is just giving up. And I do it. I give up all the time. But I guess as long as we don't give up for good, right? So that's it for today. I'll see you guys soon. Thanks for watching.